If you could instill one rule for money that, let's say, every single person had to follow, what would it be from your perspective?
Maybe one is like plan on the plan, not going according to plan. And it's saving for risks and preparing for risks that you cannot envision. And that's really difficult to do because, like, by definition, if you are only preparing for the risks that you can foresee, you're going to miss a surprise every single time. And then when there is a terrorist attack, a pandemic, a political collapse, whatever it might be, you're like, oh, I never saw this coming. I'm not prepared for this. I mean, one of the statistics that was really scary and fascinating was that in March of 2020, when COVID lockdowns and like the panic really began, I think the statistic was the average restaurant in the United States had enough cash on hand to survive for 14 days.
Wow.
In 14 days, they were bankrupt. And like I don't like restaurants are a very difficult business. I understand the margins are so low. I'm not saying they all should have had 12 months emergency fund sitting around, but that's a really difficult thing. If you live in that world, then the odds that is going to be inadequate at some point in your life are 100%. They're 100% that it's not going to work at some point. And I think that's why you get in society bank bailouts, stimulus programs and whatnot, is because the huge majority of society is not prepared for risks that are guaranteed to occur. I think that's a sad, not sad. It's just kind of an inevitable thing of why we get these catastrophes, mainly in like financial crises and deep recessions. It's that the huge majority of people and businesses are not prepared mentally or financially for risks that we know are going to occur.
What are the practical steps that somebody should take when they hear that?
I think that the simplest, kind of going off of that, is the level of savings that you should have should seem like it's a little bit too much. It should seem like it's a little bit excessive, because only when it feels like it's excessive do you know that you're saving for a risk that you can't envision. And that's when you know. Like if you and I were to go back to 2019 and you were to say, Morgan, why do you have all the savings? I'd say I have no idea. I have no idea why I have this. But by March of 2020, I'd say, oh, maybe that was what it was for. This pandemic that I never in a million years would even think about. In hindsight, that's what I was saving for, even if I didn't even know it. That's the way to do it. You could make the same thing if it was September 10th, 2001. If you could look at a business and say, why do you have all this cash on your balance sheet? And the CEO might say, I have no idea. And then on September 11th, 2001, they said, oh, that's what it's for. I didn't know then, but I know now.
Yeah, that is fascinating. And it is, we often don't think about it in a culture that is so much credit focused and so much, get it on the card. It's like, what can, like, it just, does it upset you knowing all these truths? And then we're living in a society that is going against them. Does that distinction frustrate you?
I don't think it frustrates me, but I think it's inevitable. I think it's always been that way and always will be that way. It's just a part of human behavior. And so, but it guarantees that the show is going to be very interesting in a way. And I don't want to belittle that, because interesting means a lot of people will suffer and businesses will go out of business and people will lose their jobs, and there'll be a lot of terrible things that come from that. But it's inevitable.
Yeah.
It's completely inevitable. And so it's never going to be dull.
You've said before that every great investor gets more humble as time goes on. I thought that was so, it points to exactly what we're talking about, because the bad things are going to happen. And if you know bad things that are outside of your control are going to happen, it inherently makes you have more humility.
Yeah, always. And it's always the case that even the smartest forecaster, the smartest economic analyst, the smartest investor has no idea what the biggest economic story of the next 10 years is going to be. Yeah. That's always been true, and it always will be true.